Hello, everybody, and welcome to Ask Ira Job Seeker Q&A. Today, I'm excited because we're going to address a topic that, frankly, affects just about everybody, and most people are really bad at this. The idea here is salary negotiations, right? So, what are you going to make starting day one? What are you going to make at that new job that you're applying for? And is that going to be enough to sustain you throughout the initial period before you would be considered for a raise or a promotion? A lot of you have no idea how to do this. So I look forward to being more of a teacher today than most days. Usually we just take the questions as they come and we answer them. And I have no idea what the questions are, although I pretty much know what all the questions are. I get the same questions most times, but I know not everybody can watch the show every time, so I don't mind answering the same questions over and over. And sometimes there's little nuances to the questions, and that can make a difference in the answer that I would give. But today I'm flying solo, so my co-host Lisa Jones was not able to make it today. So that's why it's called Ask Ira and not Ask Ira and Lisa. So we will go back and forth on the title of the show. And, anyways, when she's available, she's more than welcome to be here as my co host. And when she's not, I'll fly solo, no problemo. All right. So, by way of introduction, if you don't know who I am, my name is Ira Bowman. I am the owner of Bowman Digital Media. We do digital marketing for our clients. However, I'm also the owner of a philanthropy charity, if you will, nonprofit called Project Help You Grow. Project Help You Grow was established in 2018. We launched the website back in September of 2018, actually. So going on our fifth year now. And we help job seekers connect with recruiters and employers who are hiring. We do it for free. We don't even have ads on our website. It's just completely a free service, right? So it was never about making money for me. It was always just about offering help. But I have learned a ton about the job seeking space, if you will, uh, in the last 5 years. Now, in full disclosure, I've also been a hiring manager at a couple different companies, and now I'm an owner of my own business for the last couple years. So I hire people at Bowman Digital Media. So I've been on both sides of the fence here. I've been the employee, I've been the manager, kind of. I hate to say middle manager, but basically that's what I was, stuck in the middle, if you will. I had to deal with HR and ownership and the C-suite, and then now as the owner of Bowman Digital Media. And I have a lot of recruiter friends too. So if you're not familiar with Project Help You Grow, you probably want to get over there and check it out. There's really nothing like it. And I know a lot of people say that, but honestly, there's nothing. I have not found anything even close to Project Help You Grow anywhere online, even copycats. We don't even have copycats. Why? Because a lot of people get sucked into the money trap, right? They want to make money. They want ads. So like you can't even, I'm proud of this, but you can't even, it doesn't ask, there's no place to even give a donation to Project Help You Grow. It's just free help and it works globally too. So wherever you are, I'm not sure what's going on. It looks like we're having maybe some troubles. I know LinkedIn was down for a while today, Ashan. So maybe that's what's going on. Maybe try turning it off, turning it back on, see if that works for you. But I know that LinkedIn was down for at about 10 o'clock my time. So a couple hours ago, it was down for about 10 minutes. And the app, it took a little bit longer to come back up. But, anyways, hopefully that'll fix. If it doesn't, you can always find these episodes on Project Help You Grow. I load them up the later in the afternoon. So every Wednesday, about an hour after the show has been live, then it'll be on Project Help You Grow's tab. I'll actually bring that up and show you so you guys can see it. So projecthelpyougrow.com. Let me share my screen here real quick. We got a lot to do today, but I just want to make sure you guys know where you can find these episodes. That is important. So we will take the time to do that. All right. So this right here is Project Help You Grow. This is the philanthropy that I run. Okay. So again, no ads, no commercials. You don't have to sign in to use it. You can use everything on here except for loading a job. You can't load a job if you're a recruiter and employer because there's some legalese that I need you to take care of. But for the episodes of the show, they're all right here on this tab, Ask Ira, right? So you can come here, you can come here and you can see the latest shows of Ask Ira and Lisa. That's the title of the show. Today it's Ask Ira because Lisa's not here, right? So, anyways, there's 3 previous episodes that you can watch. Then there'll be today's. They're all loaded up, like I said, usually about an hour after we go live. They're also on my YouTube channel. So if you go to YouTube, Ira M. Bowman, that's me there. You can find it. Okay. Now, let's talk about the problem, and then we're going to talk about the solution. Okay. Here's the problem. A lot of you, when you're looking for a job, the average job search, in case you didn't know that, the average job search, now this is pre COVID 19, was 6.5 months. Now, it depended a little bit on the industry you were in, right? And what level you're at, right? If you're going for a C level position, it's probably a little bit different length of time than an entry level position. But that was the average job search when you added everything together and just divided it out. The average was 6.5 months. Now, with COVID 19 in 2020 and 2021, the average job search jumped up over a year. So the average person was looking for a job for over a year. So by the time you found you got in a position where they were ready to negotiate salary, a lot of you were scared out of your mind to say anything because you just needed something. And I get it. Look, I'm not naive to the need to earn money. I totally get it. But here's the problem with a scarcity mindset or a fear mindset. I'm glad that that's fixed. Thank you, and thanks for letting me know too. Because sometimes there's problems, like my mic isn't loud enough, and I don't know it. But if you tell me, then I can fix it. So I appreciate that. All right, so let's get into this. Again, I want to set the stage because this is very important, and I don't want to be come across as empathetic, right? I mean, I totally get it, and I've been there myself. I have 8 kids. It costs a lot to raise my family and to provide for them. So I've been in situations where my wife and I were like, "Hey, we just need an income," right? I mean, I've been there too, so I get it. All right. So here's where I'm going. It's totally okay. In fact, I would say it's mandatory for you to understand what you need to make, and we're going to talk about that in more detail because that'll be part of the solution. So you need to understand what you need. You also need to understand what the market will bear because, say, for example, and we'll do some of this hypothetically later. I'm going to show you how to find um, the average incomes for the type of job that you do, right? Because every industry is a little bit different and the location matters too. So you've got to know what your cost of living is. You've got to understand what the salary, what the median salaries are for the jobs that you're in. So you can ask in a proper way. So you have to understand all that. So we will get to that and we'll talk about it in detail, how you can figure it out if you're totally clueless. Like, I don't know what I should be asking, right? The first thing you need to understand is how much you need, right? So again, I don't want to get into all the solutions. I just want to set the stage. But let's say you were looking for a job for 8 months, 9 months, and you're in this desperation feeling like I just man, I don't care if it's 10% less than what's the going rate. I'll take it, and I need it. Well, here's the problem. A lot of times in the interview process, the employer is the most willing to negotiate. They're the most transparent. They're the most um, flexible, if you will, that they are at any other point once you're hired. So you have that opportunity up front to negotiate and talk about stuff that you don't have afterwards. Let's say you get you take a job, they offer you 10% less than what you need. Um, and you say, hey, and this is a mindset that a lot of people have. Well, I'll just work really hard and I'll make a very good impression. And they're going to see how much more I'm worth than what they're paying me. And they're going to give me a raise. But a lot of companies have a policy where they don't do raises for the first 12 months, some of them 24 months. And so if you took a job 10% less than what you need to live and you didn't get a raise for the first year or two, and with cost of living going up and up and up with inflation, you're at the point, 6 months down the road after you've taken the job or a year after the job, you're doing one of two things. You've now run out of any savings that you had left, right? You're probably maxed out on your credit cards and those types of things, right? So your credit score is going down, and you either have to go get a second job, right, to compensate for the negative there, or you're back in the job market and you're looking for another job after 12 months and now you come across as a job hopper. So how do we avoid all of that? Right? That's the stage. Set the stage. Okay? So if you have any questions about that, that's what the show is about today. All right? So how do we fix it, Ira? Glad you asked. I'm not going to leave you hanging. I promise. This is again going to be a little bit more nerdy. Welcome to the nerdy side of Ira Bowman. This is going to be a little bit more nerdy than normal, but this is recorded, so you can pause the tape, rewind, replay, use it as a reference later. Again, it'll be on Project Help You Grow. Again, one more time, in case you're not familiar with this website, it's projecthelpyougrow.com and then ask Ira. But you don't have to remember that. Just go to Project Help You Grow. You don't have to sign in. You don't have to do anything. You just go there, click on the tab, ask Ira, and then here are the episodes. Now, I have previous episodes. If you want to see some of my past shows, this was, let's call this season one. Okay, these were all recorded last year. So these have a lot more to do with COVID and things like that. And we're not done with COVID, obviously. COVID still exists, but a lot of us consider this now the post-COVID economy, and we're coming out of COVID at least. So these ones are more focused on the last couple months moving forward. So definitely watch these. Watch today's show. That's Project Help You Grow. Ask Ira tab. I tried to make it as easy to find as possible, so I put it on the end, right? The menu on the end, just to make it easy. Okay. Now, I'm also going to be referencing some blog articles today. So all the blog articles that I'm going to share during the show are going to be right here. Again, you don't have to make an account on Project Help You Grow. There is no premium, like, free and premium services. It's all just free. And again, this works for everybody. So if you're coming to me from the UAE or down in Africa, or maybe you're in India or Australia, Canada, my neighbors to the north, Mexico, my neighbors to the south, even even the people that are in the East Coast, we let everybody come in, even those folks, right? So come on over to projecthelpyougrow.com. You can get the answers that we're going to be talking about today in the blogs and or on the videos. Okay. It's all free. So here is the very first thing that I recommend that you do. Let's say you're in a transition. A lot of people are doing that. Okay. I was working in an industry. I did it a couple years ago. For 20 plus years, I worked in the print industry, and I lost my job. I was laid off the very first couple days of June 2020, as it turns out. And I had just moved 5 months before that to take the job that I got laid off from. I was so frustrated by that whole thing. But anyways, life is real. It happened. So what do we do? I made a transition. I switched from the print industry over to digital marketing. Now, there was some overlap. There was a significant amount of overlap, but I had officially crossed over, and I don't do anything print related anymore, right? So a lot of people are doing that. They're making some type of career pivot. That's a word that's probably overused anymore, but pivot change, right? They're changing it up. Some people call it the second career or the third career, right? Anyways, so if you're making that change, you may not be familiar with what a salary range in your area, even if you're not moving, right? Like, let's say you wanted to be I don't know, a marketing rep, right? You want to create graphics, or you want to write SEO blogs, or whatever it is that you want to do. If you have no idea how much that realistically pays, that's a problem when it comes to salary negotiations. So how do you address that? Because I think that's one of the things that you really have to understand. Now, if you're looking to move, one of the things that you might not understand is the cost of living. So, two prerequisites before you can ever go into salary negotiations well prepared to negotiate. Two prerequisites. You got to know how much your cost of living is, and you need to know what the average salary for that position pays in your area, or the area that you're moving to. Okay. You need to know those two things, because you can't intelligently negotiate with someone without knowing that fact. And in full disclosure, I failed at this when I moved to Texas. Let me tell you, first and foremost, in case before you feel bad about yourself, I have made lots of mistakes in my life. Here's one I'm going to talk about specifically, because it's an example of something that can potentially it's an opportunity for you to learn and not replicate the mistake that I made. So here was the problem. I had graduated college from Liberty University in 2013. So in 2014, I decided I wanted to get into full time management because my goal, my life goal, I didn't think being a business owner was actually realistic for me. I thought I needed to be an employee. So I was down that employee management track. That's in my mind. That's where I was. Okay. So I found an opportunity to go to work in Texas, and I did something that well, I'm going to talk about more in a minute. It's called informational interviews. Okay, so I did that part. I did my due diligence on the job itself. Right, what is the median expectation, salary expectations for this type of role? So I had done that with people that I knew because 20 years inside of an industry, you get to know a lot of people, right? Or you have the opportunity to meet a lot of people if you work it right, which I'm pretty good at networking, as you might have picked up on. So that part I did, and I'll talk about what that is in a minute. But what I didn't do was I didn't address properly the cost of living. I did some of the cost of living uh, with respects to housing and food and gas and the major things. What I didn't look at was the real estate taxes. That's where I got burned. And you might go, real estate taxes, I never look at that. You should start because this was a significant difference. I was living at the time in a home in Las Vegas, Nevada. And the home value that I purchased in Las Vegas, Nevada, I basically was looking at the same price range in New Braunfels, Texas, which is where I ended up moving, which is in between San Antonio and Austin, if you're not familiar with the area. But, anyways, I was moving there. Home price about the same amount. No state income tax in Nevada or Texas. So my assumption was the cost of living going to be pretty much the same. We realized that maybe gas would be a little bit cheaper in Texas, and you know, anyways, groceries. Look, I think if I remember right, groceries we thought were going to be a little bit more, so it's going to be about a wash. But anyways, we just assumed, or I just assumed that the cost of living was roughly the same. I did a superficial check, but I didn't, like I said, didn't check real estate. So when I get my first mortgage payment from the bank, this is where I realized I was in big trouble. What I had been paying quarterly for real estate taxes in Nevada turned out, and it was $800 a quarter, by the way, turned out to be what I was paying monthly on in Texas. So $800 a month instead of $800 a quarter. Now, if you do the math, that's an extra 1,600 bucks a quarter. So you times that by 4, right? And there was an extra $6,400 that I didn't um, consider in my calculations. So now I'm down $6,400 a year right out of the bat. Um, there was a couple other things, and I can't remember what they are, but basically the the price, and I don't want to give away the whole story here, but that's a huge hole. If you figure your annual budget, you need $60,000 and you're off by 6,400, that's 10% of your budget that you missed. That's a big miss. That was a lot. That was a huge mistake on my part, right? Well, there was a couple other things that I didn't nail down correctly, and I think it had to do with insurance, if I remember right, health insurance. And so I ended up being more like $10,000 off. So when I did my informational interview and I talked to people, the number that I was going to ask for was actually less than the opening offer that they gave me. So I didn't negotiate my salary. I just said, yes, I'll take it. And it was one of the only times I'd ever done that. Usually I negotiate pretty fiercely when it comes to salary because I know that raises and promotions are not as common as people like to think they are. Right. So I took the offer, and I found out that I was in trouble, and then, we were able to make some adjustments in my family, and we did okay for a while, but then emergencies are gonna happen to anybody. When you have 8 kids, emergencies are gonna happen probably more frequently, right? You've got more people. I was paying for 10 people, and so, sure enough, one of my kids ended up in the hospital with some big problems, and I think we had, like, a $30,000 bill that I had to pay, back in, I wanna say 2015, but anyways, whenever it was. So I ended up having to take a second job, and I was working now 2 jobs because I went to my employer and asked for a raise and got what you would expect I would get, a laugh. Like we don't do they didn't give raises at all to managers that I was a sales manager in the print industry for a company in Texas. They didn't do raises, not for sales managers, right? So if you wanted a raise, what you had to do is get a performance bonus, and to do that, we had to exceed sales in our territory by a certain percent, and then you're eligible for some type of bonus. Anyways, I did end up getting some of those, but it wasn't nearly enough of, to make up the difference, right? So if I had done do my due diligence and figured out the extra healthcare insurance costs and figured out the real estate prices, right, the cost of living, if I had done that correctly, then I could have negotiated before I took the job and bumped them up, because I will tell you that salary offers are negotiable in most cases. You're usually not going to lead with your minimum number, and they're usually not going to lead with their maximum number. Now, that's not always true. Some people will go, here's my bottom line on either side of the table. And I commend people for that, but it's not necessarily the strategy I would suggest. But you have to know your cost of living. So if you're not sure what your cost of living is, do a Google search, right? Home, talk to a mortgage lender, right? And ask them, hey, what are my taxes in this area? What can I expect? Like if I borrow $300,000 on a 30-year fixed and, use a medium credit APR. You can go to an amortization. I can't say that word. Loan calculator. They're online. Again, they're free, right? Do some math, figure it out. But talk to the person that you're going to get the loan from, and ask them for, because they can look at your credit score and go, okay, well, you're probably going to get a 5.9% APR or a 6.4% APR wherever you are, right, in that range, somewhere in there, right? And your real estate tax, and maybe they have special assessments in that area. You never know, right? So make sure you understand. Are you going to move to a place with an HOA? That's another thing that can take people off guard. They don't put in any money in their budget for an HOA, and then they buy a place in an HOA, and now they have a $300 HOA a month fee that they didn't calculate in their cost of living. So let's just go to a resource that I have. Now, again, these are in the blogs. The very first thing that I talk about, now I have this article. It's called Win the Interview. Win the Interview covers interview preparation. This is modern, I call it modern interview preparation advice, but this will take you from 0 to 100 for your interview prep. But the very last thing that's covered in the article before I conclude is salary request. In fact, I talk about an informational interview here too, but we're going to get to that in a separate blog in just a second. Okay. So I'm going to make this a little bit bigger. I'm going to take myself off screen, or I can do that. All right. So the final step in the process here is to prepare the question is coming, how much, right? They almost always ask you that. That's a great sign when they ask, how much are you willing to work for? Or what do you need is another way that they'll say it. So, what are your salary requirements? I mean, there's all kinds of ways that they'll phrase it. But what is it that you are looking for in terms of compensation to work here? And I will tell you, it doesn't have to just be a mathematical number. In fact, you can ask for things like vacation time. You can ask for perks like, health coverage or gym membership, or whatever it is that you want to ask for. It's all negotiable. It's called a compensation package. So the package, like in some cases, my wife and I, we've asked for moving expenses, um, and things like that, right? So you can get special consideration for stuff if you ask. Now, I would say be careful with the specials, because sometimes they'll give you a lot more of the special stuff because it's a one-time fee, but then a lower salary is kind of the trade-off usually. And so be careful, because you're only getting the moving expenses the one time, right? So things that are recurring, like a gym membership or extra vacation time, things like that. Maybe special hours. Maybe you don't want to work 9 to 5, or maybe you want to work from home 2 days a week or 4 days a week. Those kinds of things. That's part of, a compensation package because they're making special accommodations for you. Anyways, you can ask for all those kinds of things. So you have to know what that is going in to this interview process, because when you get the opportunity to discuss it, and I'll talk about how you can get it even if they don't ask, right? But make sure you know what you need. Make sure you know what is fair, and then you will be prepared for this question. Don't come at don't come at this willy nilly, or just I'll take whatever you'll give me, because I know where you are right now as an unemployed person for many months, if not over a year. You're in that place of desperation, but that's not where you're going to be 6 months from now if you take the job. 6 months from now, if you take the job and you're grossly underpaid, you're going to be frustrated, and you're going to be back out there looking for another job incognito, meaning you're going to be working for them, quiet quitting, and trying to find another job, right? This is what we want to avoid. So how do we do that? We have to be prepared, okay? So the very first thing that you will do when they ask you how much is you're going to respond with a question. Now, you're going to go in prepared knowing what you need to make, and what is fair, and we're going to get into that again a little bit more detail in just a minute here. But you're going to respond with a question, because you don't know a third key factor before you can ask. And I'm going to switch my screen view just a little bit because I want to look in your eyes when I say this, right? Remember, I said you go in knowing two things, but you actually need three things before you can address it. And the third piece you cannot usually get until you're at the table. So you have to be able to think on the fly here. But when they say, how much do you need, or what are you looking for, or, what are you hoping to make, however they phrase it, what I want you to say is, before I can answer that question with a number, which I know you're looking for, I have to ask you a very important question. How do you handle raises and promotions? You need to know that, because if they tell you that they have a strict company policy that they don't do any raises or promotions for at least fill in the blank amount of time, 6 months, 12 months, 18 months, 2 years plus. Maybe they never do promotions and raises. Maybe, like, I've been in plenty of sales positions where it's like, we don't ever give you a raise. You have to sell more. So you build your sales year over year, and that's how you get your raises. But at least then you know what you're dealing with, and you can ask for the number that you actually need. It's no longer a hope. It's no longer a dream. It's now reality. You know that they don't do raises for 12 months, or they don't do raises for 6 months, or they don't do promotions for 2 years. No matter what number you settle on, that's what you're going to get. That's all you're going to get. It doesn't matter if the cost of living and inflation is 9.5% like it is right now. What does that mean? That means next year it's going to cost 9.5% more. Basically, just to make a simple math, if it costs you $2,000 to pay for your expenses this year per month, next year you can expect it to cost you $2,200, $2,180 to be exact, right? But that's how that works. So if you go in and you need 21, let's say 2,200 just to make it easy. You need $2,200 a month to cover your expenses next year, and they're only paying you, let's say, $1,800 a month. That's not very much, but okay, hypothetically, you're in the hole right out of the gate, and you're thinking, "What's okay?" Because right now I'm not making anything. I'm just getting unemployment, and I'm only getting like $1,200 a month. Okay, so I'm making $600 more now than I would by staying on unemployment. I'll take that deal, and I'll figure out the rest. Well, that's good for now. And again, you'll be excited, that honeymoon phase, you'll do it. You'll figure out a side hustle or whatever to make up the difference, and you'll be happy. But eventually, you're going to get worn down. You're going to get tired. And then what happens? Life is going to throw mold in your house like it did for my wife and I this last year, right? We got mold and all these extra expenses, right? So emergencies happen. So you've got to have not only enough to cover your income, You got to think about cost of living increases and emergencies and quality of life, by the way, right? In this budget, we're going to talk about the budget right now, right? With the budget, you need to build in, I'd say, some discretionary spending and some emergency funds in there. So here's what I recommend. I think I have it in my article. Let me just look real quick and then I'll bring it up. I got to figure out which one it's in. I know I talked about it in one of them. Sorry, I know this is riveting TV as I'm reading. Okay. Well, I can't find it, but let me pull this one up real quick. This is a good one. This article is called Three Questions You Should Ask the Interviewer Before the Interview Ends. First of all, too many people are going into interviews and they're not prepared with any questions for the interviewer. And they say, "Hey, do you have any questions for me?" And you go, "No, I'm good." Like, no, you want to have questions. And I have a whole article based on that. But in this particular one, what about that raise? Again, you've got to ask about the raise, guys. You have to. You're doing yourself a huge disservice if you don't consider salary negotiations as part of the interview process when they are open to discussion. This is the time to get this thing correct, not after you take the position. Because at that point, I'm going to tell you frankly, if you sold them on how wonderful you are and you settled for a fair price or what, you guys both shook hands, said, $60,000 a year. I'll take it. And they said, great. Now we expect you to do everything that you promised us in the interview process and through this whole hiring process. So you're not really wowing us. You're just delivering on your promise of what we expected. See what I mean? It's a different way to think of it. Most employees don't look at it that way, but that's how the employers see it. Like, I made a good hire because I hired them at a good price, and they were a superstar, and they're now just proving that I was right, right? So it's not that they're disappointed with you; they're happy with you, but they're happy with you at that price. If you come back later, it's like trying to renegotiate a deal after you buy something. It's too late. So you have to do this ahead of time. So here's what you need, right? It's not in this, but here's what you need. Um, Obviously, you need your mortgage or your rent, obviously, right? Any taxes. We already talked about property taxes, right? But there are other types of taxes. HOAs, again, association fees. What type of fees are there? Then you've got food. For a lot of people, food, healthcare, these are your biggest expenses. Then there's gas, your car payment, your credit card, any school debt loans, any type of debts that you have, frankly, add them all up. Then you've got quality of life stuff, right? So, how many times a month are you going out to eat? How much is it, right? Are you going to the movies? What's your hobbies? Gym membership. Your kids. Oh my gosh, I have 8 kids. Every time I turn around, it seems like somebody wants to do a new activity. It's actually, my kids actually don't do that much, but it seems like it, right? For us, it's usually church related stuff. So there's a camp or an activity and it's $20, it's $100, it's $600. It adds up. So you got to have all of that stuff in there. And then, like I said, now you've got to have cost of living factored in there, which most people don't account for. But inflation. So right now, just a safe number in the United States is 10%. So again, if you need $3,000 a month to live this year, with inflation, it's going to be 3,300. So just add that extra $300 in there for inflation. If they tell you 2 years, then you need to add $600 to the budget, and you're going to get all of that now for the whole time. But you need to take that money and save it, right? Just open up a savings account or a special place and put that $300 a month away and save that as your inflation fund until you start to actually need it. And then what'll happen is you'll have a rainy day fund. Okay. So there you go. There's some practical advice on how you get to what you need for cost of living. You add all of that stuff up. And if that number is 3 grand, then that number is 3 grand. That means you have to make at least $3,600. At least. So if they're offering you less than 36 grand, you either have to understand up front that this is a job that will not support you fully. and you have to be willing to take a second job. That's the mentality. I will work a second job forever, and or you have to find another job, even though that might be hard to walk away from a job offer. Let's say they offered you 26,000 a year, and you go, I need 36,000 a year, and they're like, well, we could give you 32, but that's it. Well, that's still $4,000 shy, and you may not be able to live without that extra money, right? So you're like, I can't do it because I don't want to work two jobs. And so then you have to move on. And that actually will help them too, because it costs a lot of money for companies to onboard employees. Usually about a year's worth of salary is what most people figure the cost is. So if you know you're going to take the job for 4 months, 5 months, you're actually doing them a huge disservice, because there might be somebody else that's out there that's willing to work for that 28 to $32,000 that they're offering, and be happy or content with that for the first year, or whatever time period is until that company would give that raise. See what I mean? So you certainly don't want to go in where there's a huge gap, like 10,000 or 15,000 or $20,000 a year gap. You don't. That's like, most people won't take that with that gap, right? But again, most people are not asking about raises and promotions, and so they think that they're just going to get it sooner. Like, I'm going to be so much more impressive than what they were expecting. They're going to give me a raise in the first 3 months, and I'm telling you, I never gave a raise in the first 3 months ever at any job for any employee I've ever hired. Okay. It's not common for someone to get a promotion that fast. Okay. So let's go to probably the harder one, I think is the harder one for people, is what is this job actually worth? If I am not sure, Ira, what the salary pays, how do I find that answer? Right? Once you know what your cost of living is, or you have a good idea what your cost of living is, to again, because you want to relocate or whatever, how do you figure it out? Well, there's a couple ways. The first thing I want to talk about, and I actually talk about it. So in this, so what about that raise? Read this. This is 3 questions that will prepare you. You should ask the interview before the interview ends. Okay. But one of the things that I talk about in another blog is the power of informational interviews. Now, if you're not familiar with what an informational interview is, what it is you talk to somebody who has done well, they could currently be doing it. So they're either doing the job that you want to do now, but usually what I recommend is find somebody who's a level above, or even 2 levels above what you want to do. So let's say you want to be a, I don't know, human resources associate. You might want to go find yourself a human resources manager or a director of human resources at another company. And what are you going to do? You're going to pick their brain. You're going to talk to them. So, what I recommend in the article is taking them to lunch, or buying them coffee. Now, it's a little hard, again, post COVID world, but you can do a virtual coffee, of course. But the reason why you pay is because they're giving you their time. So you go to lunch or you go to coffee, you treat. That's your cost. Now, what can come out of an informational interview for you is huge. You can again, I'm going to shrink this down a little bit. You can find yourself a new friend. You can find yourself a new mentor. If you show yourself to be worthy, they might open up their connections. I used to say the Rolodex, but anyways, they might reach out and ask some people on your behalf if they have anything available. Right? They might be a reference for you. These conversations can go really, really well if you show respect, the proper respect to the person. But just the fact that you're asking to do an informational interview with people, usually they will accept, because they understand you're not trying to buy anything from them or get anything from them other than information to help you succeed in your job search. So that's usually how they start. It is a conversation that you have with somebody who has inside knowledge to the industry or type of work that you're trying to go after. You don't want to ask somebody from the company that you are applying to for the informational role. That's not what I'm saying. So the only people to exclude are people that, so let's say, for example, you wanted to come work for Bowman Digital Media. You wouldn't want to have an informational interview with somebody who works for me because that could come back to me and bite you in the butt, right? So this is where you be a little bit careful. But anybody else at any other company that is at least the level of position that you're looking for, but like it's again, like I recommend, go a level up or two. That's even better because they can give you advice on all kinds of things. Like, hey, if you were starting over from scratch or where I am now, and you were trying to get to be a human resources associate, just to stick with the analogy that I, or the hypothetical situation that I put forward a minute ago, right? Then what would you suggest I do? They could give you all kinds of stuff. They could give you like certifications to go after. They could give you groups to meet. They could give you a book to read. You can ask them about salary requirements and all kinds of stuff. Hey, what is a normal compensation plan? What should I expect in the form of any perks? Is it normal to get raises, after a year, or what's the deal? And they'll give you the down low, if you will. They'll give you the inside information for what they know and tips. And again, like I said, if you do really well with this, you might find yourself a mentor or at least somebody who's willing to say, hey, I've got a few connections in this industry that I'd like to connect you with. And you never know where that can go. So, informational interviews, something a lot of people do not do, but I really, really recommend that people do it. Okay. Yeah. Azine, you're not alone. I'm not getting any questions on this show because this is something that's really taboo. Most people are afraid to ask this question, and frankly, they flub it. They mess it all up. And I've messed it up before too, as I talked about earlier in the show. Okay. So, what is an informational interview? If you're not familiar, informational interviews are formal conversations that you have typically with people you don't know very well who have experience in a field that you do not. The interview can be done in person or via electronic communication, such as phone call, video, chat, series of emails. But the best way to do it is in person if you can. Okay. Now, who you should interview, like I said, interviews should be done with people who you respect, that have accomplished, or are currently doing something that you want to do. If you want to start with a media company, you should consider interviewing someone that has started and maintained a successful media business, as example, right? Okay. Requesting tips. Anyways, go ahead and read this. Where to read it, usually on neutral ground, face to face. Like I said, a restaurant or a coffee shop is ideal, especially in the day when it's not as busy, right? Or at least it's not as loud. How to conduct it, what questions to ask, how to follow up after the interview. It's all in here. So, you can read this. And again, it's free. There's no ads or anything. So you don't have to worry about it. You won't get any spam. Like I said, you don't even sign up for anything. So there's no email address for me to spam you with. All right. Now, once you've done the informational interview, or instead of the informational interview, just like anything in life, you can go to Google, and I recommend you do, and say how to find salary ranges for jobs, but you could type in the specific type of job if you want. Now, here's some resources. Like if you do that, salary.com actually has a pretty good calculator, but they are kind of spammy. Just so you know, a lot of this free stuff, you will have to deal with spam. That's one of the things, like I said, makes Project Help You Grow an interesting resource. But one of the things what we don't address, it's one of the holes at Project Help You Grow, is we don't address salaries. So one of the places that I like to take people is Glassdoor. And why I like Glassdoor is for two reasons. A, you can see what people who work there, how they rank the company, which is interesting. I like that, right? It's kind of an inside sneak peek to the culture, if you will, of the company. But the other thing is they do have some salary information on here. Now, I don't like this pop-up thing. It gets in the way. Okay. So I'm just gonna get over this and see if I can get out of it. Which doesn't look like I can. So never mind. Glassdoor, you're not user friendly for this. All right, but you can. I don't know why this thing's locking up, but I've been able to scroll through this before. But here you go. So, like, I put in marketing. How much does marketing make Los Angeles, California area? And it gave me the answer right here: $58,823 per year. Now, that's not management. That's just a marketing associate. can expect to make about $58,000 a year, according to Glassdoor. I'm not saying that's the only number I should take, but that's a number that I can work with. Okay. So salary.com, again, a little bit spammy. On this one, I did human resources manager in the Chicago, Illinois area, and it came up with a medium price, much better, by the way, 118,000. But you can see the range. You got 93,000 to 146,000. That's for management now. That's not a human resources associate. So let's just do a fresh search, and we'll start with something else. If somebody's got one in the comments, if you've got one in the comments, like an industry and a location, if you want to put it in there, I'll use yours. But while we do that, so what you do, job title. Let's go. I don't know. Has anybody got a job title that they want me to use? Um, I'm trying to think of one off the top of my head. Let's go customer service, and we'll go rep this time. Okay. And continue. And let's not go Illinois this time. Let's go, ooh, Arizona. We'll go Phoenix. Okay. I don't know why it's not asking me for the city, because the city does make a difference, but I don't know what's going on here. We're going to start over. Salary.com. I was trying to make it easy for you. Here we go. All right. So this is what I did before, right? So what am I worth? So let's go customer service. Phoenix, Arizona. Get my salary estimate. Okay. What's going on? Where's the info? Oh, they didn't make it as easy this time. Well, here you go. This is the fun part of the internet. Why is it not showing me what I need? Here we go. Actually, I'm just going to leave the word rep out. Maybe that was my problem. Pricing inquiry. Please complete the form below one of our consultants. Oh, yeah. I don't want to do that. Okay. Never mind. Well, that wasn't easy. Okay. So let's go to another one, because this is kind of stuff that's going to happen. So we already talked about Glassdoor. Find out a job's salary range before you apply. Yeah. That would be nice. Oh, this is an article, not a tool. Okay. Let's go back. No problem. The development salaries involves compensation. No, I'm looking for a search. There we go. Okay, this is California though, so this might only be good in California. Some of the best salary information websites. Okay, that's cool. Let's look at this. It's going to have 7 of them on there. Okay, so it's telling us salary.com, Glassdoor. We've already talked about those. Pay scale. We didn't check that one. Indeed. Salary list. Salary expert. They don't have these as follow links. Hang on. When you don't have do follow links, it's a pain in the neck. I know, but here we go. Gain insights of confidence, get pay. You want relevant, validate salary data. Interesting. I'm not sure, because I've never used this one. I'm not sure how this works, but we'll try and figure it out real quick together, because this is the real world now, right? You're trying to use free tools to figure this stuff out. So yeah, they want us. I don't like to sign up for spam. So this is how I do it. I try to find stuff that is spam free. Where was that at? That wasn't this one. Here we go. That's what I was looking for. Indeed. Salary list. Let's try salary list. Let's see what happens. That worked. So this is salarylist.com. I've never been on the site. So I'd never been on the other one either. So, but this is the kind of homework. I mean, it's not, I can see it's not super fast. It's not just right readily at your fingertips. And you might, for different types of jobs, you might go onto a website and they don't have any data for it either. Depends on how obscure, how common your job is. That's why I was asking if anybody has like a specific job type and location that they want me to look for. Cause, if you're doing customer service in Minnesota, like near between cities, it might be completely different than if you're doing it in Phoenix, Arizona, right? You might have one range at 65,000 a year and the other at 42. What's the difference? Just what the local market bears. This website is not spinning up for me for some reason. So there you go. While we wait for that, let's see if we can find another one. Salary expert. Let's see. Okay, that popped up right away. We like that. Get your pay report. We don't want to do that. I'm looking to set pay. Find out how much top talent using reliable compensation data. I'm looking to should be paid. There we go. Job seeker, right? Okay, here we go. Let's try it. Customer service. And okay, now it's asking for this is smart. I like this, right? So we just want a coordinator. But pick whichever one you want, right? And then let's go Phoenix, Arizona. Okay, so there it is. And then next type of education, and you can just put yours, right? I have a bachelor's degree. Okay. So I like this because this is pretty detailed. So the problem with this is probably going to be that they're going to want to get my email address, and that's where I'm going to stop, right? Um, they have some CRM, just customer record management, employer name. Yeah, I don't want to give all that stuff. Let's say I've got 5 years. Okay. Looking for annual pay. Yep. Oh, it's asking me what I'm making now. Yeah, I don't like this. So this is maybe not a great one. This would be cool if you're doing it for real, but if you're switching jobs, like in our hypothetical, this is a problem because right now you don't have a salary there to put in. So you could just put in what you think you need. Let's say in our hypothetical, let's say we needed $36,000 a year to live. That was our number, right? So let's just put 40,000 just to be safe, right? So we need 36. We're going to put 40 just to be safe. Let's see if we can get through this and get an answer. There you go. Okay. So we'd be okay here. If we needed $36,000 in the Phoenix area and the average pay is 45,000, we'd be okay for that, right? So marketplace rate 45,000, national average 45,000. So we're right in line with what we need in this hypothetical. So now when you go to that interview, this is how it ties all together. You go to that interview and they say, "What do you need to make?" Now you're not saying, $36,000 because the average, the median pay for that job in that area is 45. But before you get there, you're asking again, what about raises? What about promotions? Because they might say to you, we don't do raises for 2 years. And you go, even though I know right now the average pay is 45, I know that the cost of living is inflation is 9.5%. So then what am I going to do? If it's 2 years and the average pay is 45, so it's 2 years before they give a raise and they're going to pay me 45 on average. I'm actually going to ask for 45,000 plus two. years of inflation on top of it. So just simple math, let's go 10% because it's 9 point something inflation rate, right? So that's $4,500 per year. So that's $9,000. So I'm going to start my negotiation at 54,000. Now, will they give it to me? Probably not, but they might, right? They might have budgeted up to $60,000. You don't know that. They will never tell you what's in their budget, right? What do you have budgeted? No, that they're not. That's their reserve card. They know every job does have. Just so you know, every job does have a budget. Like I had a sales rep I really wanted to hire one time, and they were asking $72,000 a year, and my max budget was 60,000. And I just, as much as I like them, I couldn't hire them. It happens. But if I start at 54 and they come back and say, "Yeah, we can't go 54, but what about 48? We take 48." Now, you know that you only need 36 and inflation at 10%, that's 36,000 plus 3,600 plus 3,600. So that's 7,200 plus 36,000. That's 42 something. At 48, you're still fine. And you made an extra $3,000 because you just didn't go for the 45. This is where negotiations come into play. But this is why you have to know all three things. You have to know what you need to live, you have to know what the median pay is, and you have to know how long before they give you a realistic shot to get a raise or promotion. Because that's how you use inflation. You go, okay, well, it's 1 year. Let's change the numbers a little bit. The average pay for this area is $45,000 a year. Okay. Okay. We got 45. Let's say we need to make 46,000. Our cost of living is 46. We're changing it up a little bit. And let's say that they give a raise after 1 year. Okay. So if you didn't ask for anything, the odds are they're probably going to start, if the average pay is 45, they're probably going to start at 40 to 42, somewhere in there, right? It's almost always because again, they're going to start a little bit lower so they can work their number up. If you just took that number, the 40 to 42, you'd be short up to 5 grand, right? $3,000 to $5,000. Well, what is that per year? What does that look like in your paycheck? Well, if let's say it was $5,000, right? That's just under $500 a month that you would be short. Now, could you scrimp, cut some stuff back, maybe reduce your grocery budget, not drive as much, maybe you don't do some of the discretionary stuff? Yeah, you could do that, but your quality of life now sucks. So you're not going to be happy. And that's gonna make you more irritable at home, and then it's gonna cause all kinds of marital problems and problems with your kids. I mean, your life is more than just work, but you gotta get compensated in a way that allows you to live your life. So, again, know the numbers. If they started at 42 and you know the average is 45, you have no problem bumping them at least to 45. And now if that 3 to $5,000 range, now you're right real close. But again, consider inflation. You got 1 year before they're going to likely give you any type of consideration for a raise. So I need to take the $45,000 times 10%, right? 4,500 and add that together. They said 42. I'm coming in at 48. That's where I'm coming in this hypothetical, right? Median price is 45. They initial offered me 42. I'm saying 48 because that gives me the 45 that I should get plus. Actually, I guess it'd be 49, sorry. Yeah, 49. So that gives me the inflation for next year because I'm not gonna get a raise. Now they might come back and say, "Okay, 49, fine." They might say 47, fine. They might say 45, fine. But whatever they say, now it's more than what you were gonna get if you just took their initial offer, and now even if you went in at the 42, now I'm not gonna get a raise for the first year. And there's something psychologically mental, there's a mental component to this. It's very important. Most of us are tough enough that we can endure hard times for any amount of time as long as we know, like, we can look at it and we can count it down and go, okay, I only have to put up with this for 3 more minutes, or I only have to put up with this for 90 days, or I only have to put up with this for 5 years, right? Whatever it is, you can endure it, most things when there's a finite time to it. So you go, okay, I took that job at $42,000 because I've been unemployed for a year and I'm really scared that I don't want, I don't want to do anything to rock the boat here. And I just don't have the stomach to potentially lose this job because I get it, right? Remember, I said I don't want to come across as unempathetic. So if you know that they don't give a raise for the first year and you know that you're taking less than you need, you're taking less than the average, whichever, or both that case is, but it's for a finite time, at least you know what you have to endure. Now, here's what I need to prepare you for. In that situation, you're likely going to get a very small raise and it's going to be less than what you were hoping for. Raises are typically not negotiable. Salaries are before you accept the position. The only time you really have power to negotiate is the moment that you're pre-hire, right? All the whole time you're pre-hire, you have some ability to negotiate. And unfortunately, this is why people switch jobs. When you turn in your resignation, sometimes there's also an opportunity. The second largest opportunity to negotiate your salary is when you turn in your resignation. Because if they really need you and they know you're undervalued, right, then they can bump you there. Why do people think like that? I don't know. It's ridiculous, but it is reality, right? The two biggest opportunities you have to negotiate your salary are the times before you take the job and the time after you say, I'm out of here. I cannot tell you how many times I turned in my resignation and all of a sudden they were willing to negotiate my salary where they weren't for months beforehand when I was asking them, telling them I needed this or I needed that because of life changes. Things happened, right? It happens. So you have to use what you know to your advantage. Again, if you take the time to understand what you need, if you take the time to figure out what the average salary is in that area for that position, again, you can do it via informational interview, which is my preferred method, or also you can utilize some websites like Glassdoor works really well. The salary.com is very high rated. I had never used it before, but salary, hang on a second. I'm going to tell you there's salary expert. That was the one where we actually got this number, right? Salaryexpert.com. This was easy to use. Um, salary list is something, again, I didn't actually get a number out of it. Glassdoor. I like Glassdoor for a couple of reasons. I like Glassdoor because of salary.com was the other one that I had used. It was easy the first time I used it. It was giving me trouble the second time. I'm not sure why, but it happens. So, anyways, if there's any questions about this, now is the time. I haven't gotten any questions in the comments, which really surprises me. But again, I know that this is one of those areas where people are very timid. It's where people typically make a huge mistake. One of the reasons why people job hop is because they didn't get what they need from the current employer. So they're out there searching for what they actually need in the next one. But if you don't change the way that you approach this, then you're going to find yourself in this cyclical problem, this turnstile, right? You're going to be a job hopper. And it gets harder and harder to find a job the more you change jobs. Because when I look at resumes or anybody most people look at resumes, one of the things they look at is the length of time. Because remember, I said you have to consider the employer's point of view here to really understand how this negotiation is going to go down. There is a cost to what we call in the employment world onboard new talent. So when I hire you as a new employee, there's a cost right out of the gate for me to bring you on and then to train you and get you up to speed. Your productivity level is not as high as it will be after you get good at the job. You see what I mean? So that cost typically we figure is about 1 year annual salary. So if I'm paying you $60,000 a year, it's going to cost me an extra $60,000 basically. That's how we figure it out, right? To get you up to speed. So if I see on your resume that you change jobs every 12 to 18 months, it's going to be really hard for me to get a good ROI on you. I'm probably not going to hire you. I'm going to hire somebody else who stays 4 years, 5 years, 6 years. Like you don't find a lot of resumes with people staying, 10, 20 years anymore. And when you do find those people, a lot of times they're older And then you deal with this other issue, which is called ageism. And I have all kinds of ideas on how to counter ageism. And in fact, I wrote a blog on it called Counterpunching Ageism on Project Up Here. You can check it out. Okay. But salary is important because of this. Salary will allow you to get what you need to get to pay your bills, to live a comfortable life. It'll help you to maintain that work life balance because you won't have to work a second job. And it might even help you have a happier marriage because you guys aren't fighting over the money that you're not making that you need to make, right? Or why did your wife spend extra $100 on Amazon this week? You know what I mean? That kind of stuff turns into fights when you're not making enough money. But when you have enough money for slush fund, right? A little extra stuff, quality of life built in, you have that, then the extra $100 on Amazon is not something that you would probably fight about. See what I mean? So also keep you from having to take a second job or having to quiet quit. If you're not familiar with quiet quitting, what that is that's when you basically do the bare minimum. You don't put in any extra effort at work. You're not working overtime. You're not volunteering for stuff. You're not going out of your way to make sure the company is doing good, right? Companies are hurt by those who are quiet quitters, but it does happen. And one of the reasons why it happens is because they feel like they're not being compensated fairly. They go, if you're not going to pay me what I'm worth, then I'm not going to give you the extras, is the attitude. And that doesn't happen if you learn how to negotiate your salaries better, which is one of the reasons why I'm hosting this topic today. And we've talked about this as opposed to all the other things that we always talk about. Every single show, we talk about some of the other stuff. We didn't even do any LinkedIn profile reviews today. So this has been truly a special episode. Next time, next week, next Wednesday, we'll go back to our regular format and we'll do LinkedIn profile reviews. We'll talk about job seeker questions from ATS compliance and how to find a job and all those things next time. My name is Ira. I hope that you've enjoyed this episode. Look, I get it. It puts you in an uncomfortable place to talk about money, especially when it's been a long time since you've earned a steady paycheck. I do understand that. If you take the lessons, and they probably weren't as explained as well as I would have liked to, but if you figure out what you need, you go in prepared with that, and you figure out what the salary range is for that area, and then you ask the final component, that third pillar, what about raises and promotions? How do you handle that? And then from that point, with those three data points, you can negotiate from a position of strength and confidence without overshooting. One thing we didn't talk about, which we probably should, I want to talk about this before I wrap up here. If you ask for too much, let's say the average salary for that customer service role or whatever role, right, was $45,000 and you ask for $72,000, the odds are you're not getting that job. So what do you do in that situation? If you need $72,000 because that's what your cost of living is, and the job type that you're looking for, the salary range is 45. So you can usually do plus or minus 10% on either side of those and be safe, right? So 40 to 40, 8, 49. That's the salary range that's going to be acceptable in that space, but you're asking for 72, which is almost double. You're not going to get that role. So then what do you need to do to make more money? Well, you either need to find a new location that pays that amount, right? So you might have to move. That's where you might necessitate a move. You might go like, hey, I need to go work for a company in California. And maybe I can even do it remotely. So I can stay where my cost of living is the same here in, let's say, Boise, Idaho, but work for a company in, you know, Los Angeles, California, something like that. That's one way to do it, right? The other way to do it, obviously, would be to change the type of job. So, that's where, again, maybe a career pivot and you go from doing customer service to, sales or who knows, right? Whatever, maybe something like you do it for fun now, it's your hobby, but you could make a living at it and it pays better than what you're doing now. That does happen, right? It happened to me. I went from the print industry, having fun with graphic design and photography and video editing and all that stuff on the side to help me with my own personal marketing needs, to doing that for a living and providing that service for about 40 different customers here now. right? So that's my story. So you can do that. The other thing that you can do, like I said, when you do an informational interview, one of the things they might recommend certifications, extra education. Maybe you're going to join an association, things like that. Maybe you're going to go work 1099 jobs, right? So we'll do what we call fractional work, and you're going to work as a contractor as opposed to taking a job. And you're going to have 3 or 4 contracts instead of one, and that's how you're going to make the extra money. There are a lot of creative ways to make the money. The other thing that you might do is figure out a way to reduce your cost of living. Maybe instead of buying a 4-bedroom, 3-bathroom house, maybe you're going to, figure out a way to live in a 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom house or an apartment or something like that, right? So there's all kinds of creative ways to change the numbers, but you have to have the information available at your disposal before you can make adjustments to your strategy. Because that's really what this is, a strategy. The strategy shouldn't be hope and pray. I'm just going to hope that they offer me enough, and then pray whatever I get, that'll get it done. Because a lot of times that puts you in a bad spot. So you don't want to do that, right? So again, you need to know your cost of living. You need to know what the average salary range is for that particular position in that local market. And then you need to ask the question so you have the information about how they handle the raises and promotions. So you know the time period for the inflation number, right? So that's what that piece is really about. They say 12 months, they say 6 months, they say 18 months, they say 24 months. You take the salary, add the inflation rate, which again, the national inflation rate is over 9.5% right now. So use 10% as a safe, easy math. And you take that opening salary, let's say it's $36,000 1 year, then you would take 36,000 times 10%, which is $3,600, and you add that together. So 36,000 plus 3,600 is 39,600. So you ask for 40 grand instead of 36. It's still within that 10% range of normal. You're still okay. They might push back and say, we're not going to give you 39,600 or 40 grand. Maybe we're going to give you 38, but you're still better off than you were by asking or just accepting the 36. And again, if you take my advice, take that extra money, whatever that inflation rate was, and put that away for the year, but you don't need it. Then by the time you do need it, you've got an accumulation and you can cover yourself without getting a second job. This is where these strategies all come into play. Anyways, hopefully this was a help. We will be back again next week. It's Wednesdays. I'm going to start going live every Wednesday. So it's Wednesdays. It's noon Pacific time. So that is 3:00 Eastern. We're live on YouTube, we're live on Facebook, and we're live on LinkedIn. And then after the fact, once the show's over, I do post them on the website, Project Help You Grow. There is a tab in the menu called Ask Ira, and all the episodes go right there. Thank you very much for watching the show, and I hope you guys find a great job that pays you what you need to make very, very soon. Have a great day, everybody. BowmanDigitalMedia.com